Welcome to today's webinar on how to get donor mapping right. Hopefully, by the end of this session, all our participants will have a clear idea of what a good donor map looks like and how to create one for their organization. Please keep in mind that this webinar is being recorded and the recording will be shared with you afterwards by my colleagues. So, who is MZN? MZN International is a social enterprise which works to build better nonprofit organizations. How does MZN do that? By working with NGOs around the world to improve their funding strategies, help access the funding opportunities they need, and by supporting the capacity development of these partner organizations. MZN provides funding support services as well as training opportunities for the nonprofit organizations. You can learn more about services and trainings at mzninternational.com. And a bit about who I am, who is delivering the webinar to you this fine September day. My name is Hande, and I have been working in the field of international development for more than 15 years. I worked both in the public and private sector, many years focusing on fundraising, project management, and capacity building for organizations. Born and raised in Istanbul, Turkey, I currently live in Berlin, Germany, and I support MZN as a trainer and moderator. So, in today's webinar, for starters, we will take a look at the basics of NGO funding. From there, we will ask the question of why we need donor maps. This will take us to our third talking point, the process of mapping donors. Then, last but not least, we will talk a little bit about how to use the donor map. Let's get a stable income stream for your NGO. The tip on this slide is influential. First of all, we strongly recommend NGOs to diversify their funding and revenue streams. Do this by setting up your organization's funding strategy. You wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket with your personal finances, right? So diversify the funding and decrease your dependency on the same types of revenue streams. Number 2 highlights the importance of having some reserve funding for the rainy days. Think about this as the piggy bank of your organization. Set a target and grow your reserve funding. Tip number 3 is a lesson to be practiced by almost every NGO out there. Understand the different costs of what it takes to run your operations. This will help you set your funding targets more realistically. In a manner of speaking, understand what you are seeking funding for. Quite a lot of organizations in the race for securing funding bend their rules, priorities, and missions. Tip number 4 reminds you to set your own parameters and do not steer away from them every time a donor identifies different expectations. Last but not least, have a live, functioning, and open system to find and assess opportunities. We are very well aware of NGOs dismissing really good opportunities just because they did not read the guidelines carefully or thought their current workload is a deterrent for pursuing new opportunities. Then turn around, take a look at your organization and ask yourself, are we investing enough time and effort into developing new business for our NGO? NGOs who achieve a high income growth each year spend between 40 to 60 hours per month on donor mapping and opportunity engagement identification. 40 hours is approximately one full week, or it can be one full day per week, or simply one fully focused week of someone solely mapping donors, identifying different types of opportunities, working on engagement options, and strategizing how to secure funds. Please bear in mind that the time mentioned here does not include program design and writing proposals. So just remember again, for a live and continuous system of mapping and identifying donors, you would be expected to input 40 to 60 hours per month. Then let's move on to why we need to map donors. A good donor map aligns your vision and mission with opportunities and funding bodies. So a donor map is where you see what your organization needs, what your organization is seeking to implement, and then who are the donors you are in good alignment with. It is asking the questions of which opportunities are suitable to be investigated further. So are you going to invest more time and resources to further pursue such opportunities? It helps you identify donors based on their priority, not in terms of large donors or donors you regularly work together with, but in terms of their alignment with your goals, with your strategies, with your objectives. So look at the donors through the parameters your organization has set. And then a donor map helps you prioritize opportunities and identify which donors or calls for proposals need more immediate attention. Sometimes your donor map will show you donors who accept calls for proposals on a rolling basis. So throughout the year, you have the opportunity to reach out to that donor and initiate an active engagement.
Hi, everybody. It looks like Hande has had a temporary glitch. She will be back in no time at all.
have kicked me out. And here again.
It looks like Hande has come
And
back.
let's turn the caption.
Hi there, everybody. Sorry for this. It looks like we have a little bit of technical problems. We will be back online in no time. Thank you for your patience. We hope that everything will be back to normal in minutes. There we go. Hande is back. Thank you.
Then Zoom keeps kicking me out of this session, and I hope that was for the last time. Anyway, yeah, so focusing on how to map donors. 4 basic steps to start with. First of all, to build a template. So it's not the responsibility of one single person. This document, this template needs to be a live, accessible, and interactive document, and it can be open to be updated by different colleagues based on the information they acquire from their research. And we talked about the importance of setting your own parameters. First of all, when designing and setting up your template, you need to understand these parameters. Donors have a range of criteria and eligibility standards, and your organization has specific capabilities and a mission to fulfill. In your donor map, you are looking into whether an alignment between the donors' criteria and standards and your capabilities and expectations exists. So when you are creating the donor map, make sure that both of those aspects are accounted for. So your donor map does not fully focus just on what the donors are looking for, but also includes what your organization is seeking. And make sure that you do not waste time on ineligible projects or on donors that do not align with the themes of your organization. Number 3, which takes quite a lot of investment when it comes to time and resources, but is the most critically important among these 4, is to do your research on the donors. This research is an exercise of strategic importance because the devil is often in the detail. Time spent conducting proper research builds effective lists as well as avoiding disappointment. The better you get to understand a donor's expectations, criteria, and how to engage with them, in addition to their alignment with your organization or the likelihood of success when you pursue that donor further, the better your chances would be. And at number four, once you have all this information, feed this into your donor map, to your prospect table, and you summarize and prioritize the opportunities identified by your research. Not every donor and not every type of opportunity is going to be high priority. You need to make the best of your available resources, including time and human resources. So rank and prioritize your opportunities that are supported by the findings of your research. Another highlight of setting the template and sticking to the parameters. It is really important to understand who and what you are mapping. Your funding strategy, it's your organization's funding strategy, should be in alignment with the ambitions, with the priorities, objectives of your organization. So the donor map needs to help identify which donor can help you fulfill those ambitions, not the other way around. So you are not going to bend or shift your programmatic approach depending on the expectations of the donor. Make sure that the template you build is simple and accessible, so it can be updated regularly and by different colleagues as well. Keep in mind of your organization's priorities and apply them consistently. A coherent approach to donors based on their funding envelope, experience, and capability requirements, as well as their requirements for certain local registrations, is key. So read into what is being sought by different donors and do your analysis in a consistent manner. Also, when you are building your template and setting your parameters, you need to make sure that your mission drives the donor map, not the donors driving your mission. Funding for funding's sake does not help you build a strong NGO. So let's think about a couple of questions we should consider when we are building a donor map template. First of all, we need to think about the short-term, medium-term, and long-term funding target. If we are searching for funding opportunities, then we need to know what kind of budgets we are in need of, what kind of envelopes we are seeking. And then we need to identify whether we are looking for restricted funds or unrestricted funds or a mix of the two, and what kind of a ratio between these exists for our financial goals. Then you need to clearly identify in your organization which projects and programs or thematic areas do you need funding for. Your organization might be implementing 4 different programs at the same time, and the priority of funding, the emergency of the funding need, might focus on 2 of these programs at first. So you might want to build your template on those programs initially. And then think about which areas are more innovative or might attract funding. There is quite a lot of emphasis by donors on expecting proposals that are new, innovative, that do things that have not been done, implemented before. So think about your programs and how you can shape them, tailor them to be more innovative so that they can attract the funding. Quite a lot of donors have their strict rules when it comes to what they fund and what they do not. And I'm pretty sure your organization also has your individual no-go areas when it comes to funding policies. So identify what those no-go areas for your organization are. Then be clear on what type of donors you are looking for. Are you only seeking government grants? Are you open to income generating activities or fundraising programs? Are you in need of core funding or program funding? So identify what kind of funding and what kind of donors you are looking for. Last but not least, the geographical area you seek funding for needs to be placed in that template because not every donor funds every geographical region. So make sure there's a match of where those donors have previously funded and are currently funding, and ensure the alignment of your organization's geographical area. So if you are initiating the research on donors, there are a few main tools you can use for donor research. You can start your search from looking into your existing donor agencies, current partners, and foundations. And then you can take a look at what your competitors and peers are doing. Who are they being funded by? Who are their donors for supporting the implementation of their programs? And then there are some common portals and databases such as DevEx, Funds for NGOs, ReliefWeb, etc. What's highly recommended is a combination of these different tools. It is identified as often as the best approach. Quick reminder on what this prospect table needs to be, where you summarize the information on your donors. It needs revisiting regularly and actively managing because information does not stay the same. It needs to be accessible and digital and shared within your organization so that it can be reached by other colleagues as well. When you are analyzing the different donors and thinking about how to prioritize the opportunity or the different institutions, then focus on the active calls for proposals as well as overall potential long-term value. So, as an example, a donor you value as a high priority may not have an active call for proposal. That should not deter you from pursuing a relationship with this donor. Prospects should be allocated to team members responsible for running that relationship. It highlights the importance of relationship management with our stakeholders, and donors are among our key stakeholders when it comes to developing business and raising funds. So we need to know who is responsible of running those relationship management with which donor. And allocating tasks to team members is one of the best ways of doing it. You need to approach your donor map as a long-term strategic networking tool. and it is not so much about responding to an immediate opportunity. Last but not least, on the how to use a donor map, we need to think of this as a stakeholder network mapping exercise, because it is a good starting point for prospecting. So this exercise can be conducted with multiple team members from your organization, employees, board members, key individuals at your organization, or people who have collaborated with your organization in the past, or even beneficiaries, so that you can focus on what your organization stands for instead of what a donor provides. So a simple donor map would focus on the general information about a donor, as well as the next steps you are going to follow as well. Each organization can add more detail to this simple template, but what stands as the key is getting to understand the donor in as much detail as possible and assessing the alignment with your organization, then deciding on the next steps and clearly identifying who within your organization is responsible for which step to follow. So to quickly sum up lessons learned from experiences of mapping donors, first of all, you need to be ready to invest time and human resources in mapping donors. And it's not just an exercise you do once and then forget about it, but this needs to be regular input, regular effort to updating and even identifying more donors for that map. Simple is often the best, so keep the template simple and make sure it's accessible. Furthermore, approach your donor map as a practical tool. Make it intuitive and easy to use. Do not see it as a burden to work on, but a tool that helps you with your strategy. Make sure you share it with a larger team within your organization to also promote ownership of finding and identifying opportunities, but keep a few people with the admin access, with the with the access to make changes or edits to the document, and have a bookmark folder with the regular opportunity websites, databases to consult, so you do not have to look for websites every time you are updating the donor, but you have them readily available in your browser. Living in Germany, you learn quite a lot about processes. And here, number 6 refers to the importance of developing a process within your team to keep the donor map up to date. So, as I previously mentioned, this is not to be the sole responsibility of one single person, but more of a team effort. And it's best to identify who is on that team and also who is responsible for which part of the tasks. And another lesson which would support your information gathering, intelligence analysis, and assist the donor mapping exercise is to invest in 1 or 2 subscriptions to those databases. But before you do those subscriptions, you can always use their free trials to see whether they are good value to serve the things you need for your research. That brings brings us questions. I see that 3 questions, and I will start with those. The first question is, how do donors define innovation, and how can we know whether what we are proposing is truly innovative? So the word innovation keeps changing its meaning for different sectors. So if you are talking about IT and technology, innovation has always to do with new types of technology. But when we are talking about non-governmental organizations, the programs they implement and the results they want to deliver, being innovative stands for proposing what has not been done before, or a new methodology, or having your own toolkit to conduct different activities or to deliver results. So innovative stands for doing what has not been done, approaching from a different perspective, and being a bit unique about it. Another question is about how to establish strong relationships with donors, especially if there's no existing relationship. How to do a cold call for a donor. Well, one of the key things in here is to focus on building relationships and maintaining them. You may not have worked with a specific donor in the past, but you can always identify a contact person in that organization, or you can initiate a correspondence through another organization who has worked with this specific donor in the past. Or you can look into the different events, conferences, webinars, seminars this donor is hosting or attending, and meet them in person. So there are different types of communication tools you can use, but initially you need to understand that donor, and you need to do your homework in how to best approach them. Where is the best place to search for grant donor opportunities to support nonprofits in its startup phase? For new nonprofit organizations, yes, it is always a bit more difficult to find, especially sustainable funding opportunities. However, the initial step can be to reach out to foundations which fund new nonprofit organizations. That can be an initial stepstone. And another trick can be partnering with larger organizations, or partnering with organizations who have more years of implementation under their belt. How to use AI better to support our search for donors? Okay. To be honest, I'm not very AI friendly, and I take everything it gives me with a pinch of salt. So that said, there are different AI tools which do in-depth search when you provide them with the correct data and information. For example, different AI tools can analyze your website and then seek other donor websites which have the similar keywords in their systems. But okay, me being me, I would not trust AI to conduct my donor search. I would, because you working for your organization are best equipped to know your organization and to understand what is a good fit or not. AI doesn't really know that well. Another question is about examples of what could be no-go areas for an NGO or a non-profit organization. So this can be a financial go or no-go. For example, you may decide as an organization not to work with donors who do not fund human resources parts of the budgets, or you do not you certainly need indirect costs to be included in budgets. So if a donor does not provide that, that would be a no-go. In terms of programmatic areas, you may have no-go areas when it comes to specific topics, and in case anything that misaligns with your strategic perspective and your expectations of implementation. How do you better understand your competition and your organization's unique value add for the donor? Okay, this is a two-part question. Let's start with how do you better understand your competition? One of the mistakes we often do working for our organizations is start looking at the world from that organization's perspective. So we need to step out of our organization and learn about what other organizations are doing, what kind of programs they are implementing, how are they similar to the ones we do, how are they different, and what kind of results are they showing for this. So you need to do some maybe networking, quite a lot of reading when it comes to things they publish. And also in terms of unique value add for the donor, it is linked because not every organization is the same. So we have our own way of doing things. We may have created a toolkit for delivering certain activities. We may have a set of actions based on lessons learned in a specific region. So the things we have devised, the things we have generated become part of our unique value add for donors. Another question: what would be effective donor engagement approaches for NGOs? The idea I often have when it comes to effective donor engagement is also from our personal life as well. So no one hardly likes friends who only call when they need something. So you do not want to be the NGO who reaches out to the donor only when they need specific funding. No, on the contrary, you want to be an actively engaged organization which keeps your donors updated, existing and prospective donors updated on your programs, on the developments in your area, and even require or ask for face-to-face meetings, visits, and be informative about your results. There is a request for sharing the presentation. The recording and the slides will be shared afterwards. One of the questions is, how would you account for competition over funds? Besides time invested, how do you make sure you are competitive? That again, thank you for this question. That again aligns with knowing your competitors, knowing who else would be pursuing the same opportunities, and what do you have they do not, or what do they have you do not. Are you more equipped with a local presence or already existing program which you can tailor into a proposal? So where do you see your organization in comparison to the other organizations? That helps with analyzing the competition over funds. I'm not sure whether the transcript of the Q&A will be will be available afterwards, but if it will be, then it will be shared by email as well. And there is a question on whether you can include donor mapping in the strategic planning, and if MZ10 would assist you. So to answer the first part of the question, certainly the donor mapping exercise needs to be part of your organization's strategic planning. One of the main reasons for it to be part of your strategic planning is it is directly related with your fundraising strategy, not short term, medium to long term analysis of what kind of donors are available to your organizations, are in good alignment, and what kind of opportunities they make available. Then taking the necessary steps to pursue so that you can secure the funding. And if you approach my colleagues at MZ10, then they can assist with preparing a detailed map with your organization. And I think this is the final question, whether we have any advice on how to engage donors that are requesting the organization's resources without funding the organizations. Don't. This was one of the things mentioned here, and also we mentioned in quite a lot of our trainings as well. If a donor is asking for efforts that are going to be costly for your organization, then the strategic decision is to analyze whether it is worth pursuing this relationship any further. So you can feel free to get back to that donor and say that you would very much like to collaborate further, but in order to follow their requests, then you would require resources to run such work, such studies, such activities. I hope the answers have been helpful. And I would also like to remind that MZ10 also runs online training courses on writing winning proposals and sustainable incomes for NGOs. And our in-person training courses focus on writing winning proposals, NGO funding and reserves, and mastering project budgets. And I think the next one is in Berlin in November, and soon our calendar of trainings for 2025 will be on our website. So to learn more about how MZ10 can support you for free or for a full partnership, then stay in touch. We are here to make doing good better, and we continue to work with nonprofit organizations. Thank you for your time, and feel free to join our other upcoming webinars till throughout this year and certainly next year as well. I think us today, just to make sure all the session has been shared with you afterwards. Thank you. It's been our pleasure as well.